This is the Juicy Astrology for November 10 to November 17, 2021. I'm Divinely Jennifer. Welcome. Beauties, welcome to the Juicy Astrology for November 10 to November 17, 2021. I'm Divinely Jennifer. This Scorpio lunar cycle is not for the faint of heart. It takes the courage and power of Mars and Pluto, respectively, to stand in your sovereignty and persevere. It would seem that October was just the warm-up for what we are experiencing now, like a big training before a long-distance run. The town where I live is the endpoint to a 100-mile endurance race that starts in Squaw Valley, what they now call Palisades Tahoe. I can't even imagine what that kind of run is like, let alone the training it would take to be able to endure that kind of physical, emotional, and mental demand and focus. Truthfully, though, we've been training for this moment all our lives. And it's not like we have to go through it all alone. There are people all along the path who are there to give us a helping hand. Don't turn these people down. If someone offers you water, accept it with gratitude. If someone offers you a bench to rest your tired feet, sit with love. We are all here to share our gifts and love with one another, no matter what some government authorities want you to believe. I was joking with a friend that personally, I feel like I'm heading down the Class 5 rapids of the American River in springtime after a very heavy snowfall. And I've surrendered to the divine in prayer that my boat stays upright. Luckily, when you believe in the divine, you don't need a life jacket because the divine is your life jacket. What have you let die this week? I've had to let die the expectation of myself to be Superwoman, especially when time feels like it's moving at warp speed. In true Scorpio nature, I've had to prioritize my clients and collaborations with others over solo projects. I do apologize for being somewhat spotty on the Juicy Astrology videos. A 30-minute video like this one for a week's worth of astrology takes me 8 to 10 hours to create, edit, and produce. So please subscribe if you haven't already, comment below, like the videos, and definitely share them with your friends. We're all doing our best to keep our heads above the waters of Scorpio. And in those moments when you get pulled down, ask for help, whether from your guides, the angels, God, source, your partner, or your bestie. The connections we are forging now will get us through our journeys through the underworld this winter. Those connections matter. Speaking of the underworld, you have likely started to feel Venus's transit through Capricorn. Juno, the goddess of marriage and intimate partnerships, will join her there later this week. Relationships that are not built on a solid foundation may experience some hardship. Even relationships that are built on a solid foundation may feel like work. Well, relationships are work, and like a garden, we have to nourish them if we want to keep them. This week is really going to push you to speak your truth, just like my dog is speaking her truth in the background if you can't hear her. So you're really going to feel pushed to speak your truth, to speak of your vision of the future, what it means to be part of the greater good. A client sent me some video footage of a protest in Australia last weekend. It was like a protest of hugs, old friends greeting each other at the border between Victoria and New South Wales. That's the province where those are the provinces where Melbourne and Sydney are. And that border has been closed for months. I'm not usually one for protests, but if someone organized a hugging protest, I'd want to be there. Take that, Pluto and Capricorn. It's a hugging revolution. And maybe that's truly one of the biggest lessons of this Scorpio lunar cycle and these wild times in which we are living. To hug each other as if our lives depended on it, wherever we can. Where we hold on to each other as we're flying down the rapids, like we're holding hands when jumping off a cliff into a pool of water, or we're holding hands on a roller coaster, or in our moments of deepest grief and despair. After the grief comes acceptance, and after acceptance comes universal love. If you need a hug and a hand to hold, I invite you to schedule an astrology and health reading with me on my website at www.divinelyjennifer.com. Understanding our divine natal blueprint, especially when you include all the goddesses, and seeing our gifts as laid out in the stars can be an incredibly validating, empowering, and healing experience. And with no further ado, beauties, here is the juicy astrology for November 10 to November 17, 2021. All times listed are Pacific Standard Time, so please adjust accordingly to your time zone. Wednesday, November 10th, the waxing moon in Aquarius has a busy day. Mars and Mercury want to drag her into a fight, but Saturn shows her how to hold her ground by not getting too attached to the outcome. Uranus may inspire us with an aha moment after some of this week's biggest astrology detailed below. Mercury in Scorpio conjuncts Mars in Scorpio at 4:56 a.m. They're at 7 degrees, 22 minutes of Scorpio. You've probably been feeling this build up for a few days. This transit encourages us. No, more than that, galvanizes us to speak our truth. You'll feel this even more strongly if you've been holding your tongue for months on end. Draw courage from Mars. Now mind, you don't need to go shouting from the rooftops with a megaphone and an Uzi for effect. On the contrary, you may be inclined to whisper your truth or speak it in code. The right people will get the message. No matter what volume you communicate your truth and your power, this is a transformational moment. Don't let yourself be coerced or manipulated into silence. It's the third of 3 times that they will have conjuncted since August in Virgo and October in Libra. Then at 9:04 a.m., Mercury in Scorpio squares Saturn in Aquarius. They're both at 7 degrees, 39 minutes. Mercury and Mars are ganging up on Saturn today. At least that's some of the shadow energy. With a square, there's potential for conflict, but there's also potential to draw on the strengths of the transit to take action. Mercury in Scorpio has a tendency to manipulate through fearful words and messaging. And let's face it, the mainstream has bought it hook, line, and sinker. And a lot more people are speaking their truth and speaking of their vision of the new earth. Whether they use those exact words or not, they're talking about our future together on this planet and how they want it to be. Saturn wants us to be committed. If you're going to speak your truth, are you committed to seeing it through? That's exactly what the Mars in Scorpio square Saturn in Aquarius transit at 3:13 p.m. asks us. Are you committed to taking action that supports your vision of the future? Where do you need more discipline in your transformation? Standing in your sovereignty and power takes practice. It's the rare person who doesn't have it bred out of them by the time they reach adulthood. We have to practice how we want to feel every day, little by little, until it becomes part of our DNA. If you can combine the highest frequencies of these energies of Mars and Mercury together in Scorpio, joining forces with Saturn in Aquarius, you might just feel like you've taken a quantum leap by the end of the day. Thursday, November 11th. Happy Veterans Day to all of my listeners, friends, and former colleagues who serve or previously served in the military. Please know that you are seen, and I bow in gratitude to all that you have sacrificed on behalf of a nation who generally doesn't appreciate you. The waxing moon in Aquarius has her first quarter square with the sun in Scorpio at 4:46 a.m. In general, the moon's energy all day feels strong for taking action towards your new moon intentions. She goes void with a sextile to Juno in Sagittarius at 10:17 p.m., infusing our intimate partnerships with spirituality and curiosity before heading into dreamy, empathic, compassionate Pisces at 11:53 p.m. Mercury in Scorpio trines Pallas Athena in Pisces at 6:19 a.m. They're both at 9 degrees 5 minutes. Mars will make this same transit tomorrow. In Pisces, Pallas Athena's wisdom runs deep. She's more about using intuition than words or creating a plan. With this transit, she offers you some wisdom and perhaps some strategy around using your voice in your collaborations. Both Mars and Mercury are in a yod today and Mars tomorrow, with Chiron in Aries and Ceres in Gemini. We are all healing our wounds and yet are fertile with creativity. In fact, our wounds usually inspire creativity within us. Friday, November 12th, the waxing moon in Pisces has a very busy afternoon. Allow yourself to tap into the divine flow of life. Today is not about efforting, but rather dreaming and feeling. The sun in Scorpio trines Neptune in Pisces at 8:23 a.m. They're both at 20 degrees 30 minutes. The shadow side of this transit is very much about allowing someone to manipulate or delude you. Like a soupy fog you can't see through. However, for the most part, this can be a really lovely transit. This is a luscious moment to share your dreams with a partner, perhaps those dreams that you only share with the people you trust the most, or the dreams you are guarding vigilantly in your heart. It's also beautiful energy for sensuality and sharing sensuality, whether in the form of a really creamy latte or physically making love. Whatever you do, don't rush this moment. Let it slowly wash over you. Mars in Scorpio trines Pallas Athena in Pisces at 6:40 p.m. They're both at 9 degrees 7 minutes. Whatever intuitive strategy or negotiations you came up with yesterday, now is a time to take action if you haven't already. The reality is, no one is really in the mood to negotiate, so you might need to prioritize what feels most empowering. Saturday, November 13th, the waxing moon in Pisces finds herself in the flow again. Pluto acts as a guidepost. Land here to stand in the power of your dreams and intuition. Mercury in Scorpio opposes Uranus in Taurus at 7:56 a.m. They're at 12 degrees 25 minutes. There are so many ways to interpret this transit. What came up for you with the new moon on Thursday the 4th, when the moon and sun were in almost exact opposition to Uranus, not far from this exact point? I expect some shocking or surprising communications or revelations, possibly around secret love affairs, secret stashes, secret meetings, secret collaborations. Remember that Uranus is working directly with Mother Earth here. He knows that those old systems aren't in her best interest, and he wants us all to have a lot more gratitude for all of the abundance she shares with us. He's not afraid to be a rabble-rousing, mischief-making revolutionary. You might also receive many aha moments today, like lightning bolts of ideas and intuitive flashes. Sunday, November 14th, the waxing moon in Pisces goes void in the morning with a square to Juno in Sagittarius at 7:40 a.m. If you and your partner are on the same page with your spiritual beliefs and your long-term plans, you have the potential to create a sacred divine union. If not, it might be a little more challenging if a sacred divine union is part of your dream. The moon moves into Aries quickly after at 7:48 a.m., where she is feisty, independent, courageous, opinionated, and a bit brash. Juno, the goddess of marriage and intimate partnership, moves into Capricorn at 12:23 p.m. today. We'll likely feel a big shift in our intimate relationships. Juno has been in Sagittarius since December 18th, 2020, thanks to her long retrograde this spring and summer. A lot of relationships ended as well, thanks to her summer-long conjunction with the South Node. And a lot of people met their soulmates in twin flames. It's so helpful when two people in relationships share the same spiritual values and beliefs and have similar long-term plans about life. This move into Capricorn asks us to create structure around the long-term plans and spirituality that we may share in our intimate relationships. What foundations exist in your relationships for when the going gets tough, as they invariably do in Capricorn? Can you both be sovereign in the relationship, yet work together in a committed and disciplined way? Jupiter will be in Capricorn until February 1st, meaning she'll be there throughout all of Venus's retrograde and some pretty intense transits. Whatever you do, promise not to go to bed angry and try not to hog the covers on the coldest winter nights. Saturn and Aquarius trines retrograde Ceres in Gemini at 2:42 p.m. They're both at 7 degrees 52 minutes. This is the second and final trine this season between the loving father and the goddess of conception and fertility. The first was on September 1st, when Saturn was retrograde and Ceres direct. They were also part of a few grand trines in October, with Mars, the Sun, and Mercury in Libra, giving flow to the ideas and ideals between individual relationships and the collective. Together in this transit, Saturn and Ceres remind us that we are the master of our own creativity and fertility. What practices have you put into place to capture your ideas? Ceres inspires you to start tracking the ideas as they come if you don't already journal or write each day. Monday, November 15th, the waxing moon in Aries is feeling wounded today. Be careful not to snap at people who get in your way. This is a busy morning in the cosmos. At 12:07 a.m., Venus in Capricorn squares Chiron in Aries. They're both at 8 degrees 57 minutes. This is a moment to take stock of the healing you have done since March of 2021. Are there any wounds that you have let fester or that bring you shame? Venus understands that the underworld provides opportunities for healing as much as the sunshine. Did you know that they have started using maggots again for wound care? It's one of the ways that modern medicine has gone back to the wisdom from centuries ago. Likewise, think about all of the ways that mushrooms and fungi help to heal the earth from below the surface. Take some time this week to watch the documentary Fantastic Fungi if you haven't seen it already, and be sure to attend to your wounds with love and care. Love and care are often the missing ingredients in pharmaceuticals. Then Venus in Capricorn sextiles Pallas Athena in Pisces at 7:21 a.m. They're both at 9 degrees 12 minutes. Pallas, the goddess of wisdom and strategy, is giving Venus the love maiden some tips on how to survive life in the underworld. She reminds Venus to use her intuition to get around in the dark and never give up on her dreams, which can sprout in the spring if properly tended in the winter. Finally, the Sun in Scorpio squares Jupiter in Aquarius at 11:58 a.m. today. They're both at 23 degrees 40 minutes. Generous Jupiter has a vision of the future. It starts with sharing our resources and our gifts and realizing that wealth alone cannot lead to happiness. The shadow side of this transit happens when we approach scarcity of resources from a place of fear or greed. On the other hand, when we tap into Jupiter's magnanimity, we remember that the resources are more than abundant for all. Tuesday, November 16th, the waxing moon in Aries feels big, bold, and chaotic in the morning. She goes void with a square to Pluto in Capricorn at 7:50 a.m. and doesn't enter resourceful, gentle, abundant, and pleasure-seeking Taurus until 6:17 p.m. We'll feel the energy of the square all day, which may manifest as frustration, conflict, or fearless action in the name of autonomy. Vesta enters Sagittarius at 6:03 a.m. after having delved into the secret rituals and initiations of Scorpio since September 20th. Vesta, the goddess of health, home, and the harvest, the midwife, and the wise crone, will spend the next 8 weeks in Sagittarius before joining several planets in Capricorn on January 10th or 11th, depending on your time zone. She's hitting the books in Sagittarius, studying and teaching rituals and spells from around the world, helping us to release those that no longer serve us, and reminding us that in the new earth, we are all one. Think of Professor McGonagall from Harry Potter, the character played by the brilliant Maggie Smith. Don't you wish that all of your college professors could have been like her? Vesta will play a very important role, not only in the new moon total eclipse on December 3rd or 4th, but also when Venus emerges from her retrograde at the end of January. Stay tuned so you can tap into the crone's deep wisdom. The sun in Scorpio sextiles Pluto and Capricorn at 1:01 p.m. They're both at 24 degrees, 43 minutes. I really love the energy of this transit. I really love how so many people are standing up in their sovereignty, willing to give up their jobs and livelihood to maintain autonomy over their bodies. They may be scared about how they're going to pay the bills, just like I was, but they're willing to go to battle, not with weapons, but with action and courage. This transit reminds us of this message that we don't need weapons to be courageous warriors. Our light and love, our collaborations with each other, our willingness to be transformed. These are some of those most brilliant ways we can change the world and change the systems and structures that do not serve the greater good or the new earth. This is the closing sextile since our conjunction on January 14th, 2021. What was happening for you then, and what has changed in how you share your resources? I was doing a lot of free readings for people as I found my footing as a baby astrologer. How grateful I am that people are now willing to share their resources with me in exchange for our sessions together. Wednesday, November 17th, the waxing moon in Taurus is taking her time today, working at her soul's pace. She knows that the next few days are pretty big. Wait till tomorrow if you're planning on launching something before the full moon and partial lunar eclipse on the 19th and 20th. Mars in Scorpio opposes Uranus in Taurus at 9:22 a.m. today. They're both at 12 degrees, 15 minutes. In all fairness, I should probably have included this transit in the astrology for the 13th or 14th, because that's likely when we'll start feeling its energy, especially with Mercury's opposition to Uranus on the 13th. There could be some literal or figurative earthquakes that lead to tsunamis. And honestly, if all of the information and data from the last 19 months that's been hidden from the people went public, there would be a tidal wave of revolution. We're talking a storm. You see, in Aries, Mars is a formidable warrior on his own, but in Scorpio, he knows that two soldiers are stronger than one. You carry the sword, I've got the shield, and we'll ride the horse together. And Uranus, he can't help but stir things up on behalf of the new earth. There could be some upheaval in the financial markets or farming world with this energy. This is another transit to support sharing of resources. I feel like I'm sounding a bit like a broken record. Get to know your farmers at your local farmers market. Even if you live in Ithaca, New York, where the winters are cold, there are still plenty of vendors and farmers who have root veggies and other bounty to share during the winter. And if anyone from Ithaca is watching this, please give the McDonald crew a big hug from me. I have no doubt that Peter McDonald is smiling upon us all, still wearing his favorite Stetson and helping to create the new worth from the spiritual world. Okay, beauties, thank you all so much for your patience in waiting for the juicy astrology this week. Luckily, there were no major transits on the 8th or 9th. We are definitely in a time of transitions and transformation for the next few months. I don't see any time in the near future where things slow down for more than a day or two. The good news is the universe definitely has our backs when we are in service to something bigger than ourselves and our own individual wants and desires, even as we engage our sovereignty and power as an individual. That was the lesson of all those Pluto and Eris squares over the last 2 years. If you're wondering what your divine natal blueprint might reveal about your calling and life purpose, I invite you to schedule an astrology and health reading with me at divinelyjennifer.com. These sessions are so magical. I truly feel blessed to have found my calling and to be able to connect with the beautiful souls who are ready to shine their light on the world. If only you all could meet each other. And yes, that is one of my desires and dreams for 2022. Hang in there, my loves. The best part about astrology is that it's all temporary. Together, we will awaken to the beautiful new earth that is right in front of us, to be revealed one day at a time. I love you. Have a beautiful week. I'm Divinely Jennifer, and I'll see you the next time.